Hi everybody, and thank you for joining us. This webinar is entitled Back to Basics. In this session we're going to show you how to maximise the basic tools that you can find on your main toolbar and how that they can support learning in the classroom. We aim to demonstrate how sometimes the simplest idea can really impact your learners. Today's presenter is Janice Pranstatter and my name is Samantha Clues. For those of you who have not been to our webinars before, both Janice and I are teaching and learning consultants for the UK and Ireland. We both come from teaching backgrounds and have experience in the classroom and knowledge of how to apply these technologies into education today. If you're just joining us now, you'll see on the screen the areas that Janice is going to cover with us. As always with ActivInspire, we will be showing you some extra tips and tricks as we provide examples for the classroom. Janice, if you'd like to get us started today.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, so let's just get started right away because I've got quite a lot that I want to cover in this half-hour session. So when you install and open your software for the first time, you will have been asked to first fill in a registration form and then secondly, choose the interface that you would like to use. We recommend that you use Primary for younger learners and Studio for older, but it really is dependent on which you think works best for your class. So the first time you open your software, or when you open your software, your screen should look something like what you're seeing on my screen right now. Okay, so I am currently using the Studio interface, so you can see I've got the Studio toolbar and the Studio interface open here. But on my screen, I have taken snapshots so that you can see the difference between the two. So down here, I've got what the Primary one looks like. As you can see, they're very similar in their layout, and the toolbars look very similar. There are just slight differences between them, more having to do with the height, really, of learners that are at the board, and also the skills that younger learners would still be developing that older learners would have. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this as we go along. Now, if you happen to choose the wrong interface the first time you opened it, or if you immediately choose Studio and are actually Primary and didn't realize that there was a Primary interface, it's not a problem because this can be very easily changed at any time. What it also means is that I might decide that for some of my learners, the Studio interface is the better one, but for other learners, the Primary interface works. So I can switch back and forth between them at any time. So to do this, you want to go up to your main ActivInspire menu at the top here, and I'm going to click View and open up my dashboard. On Dashboard, I then have an option here called Configure, and now you'll see a little button that says launch the next time using the Primary look and feel. So because I'm currently in the Studio look, when I select this, the next time I open my software, it will open with the Primary look. So it'll look like this. So to do that, I would need to close the software down and restart it. So I'm not going to do today, just to save time. Okay, so just to remind you, it's View, Dashboard, and then Configure, and you want to make sure that you tick that button. The default profile for a fresh install is the At the Board profile, and the At the Board profile is what you can currently see in my software and also the screenshots that I've taken today and you can see on my screen. So you can see how the At the Board profile looks in both Primary and Studio interfaces. There are slight differences you might have picked up between the two toolbars, and the main thing is these tools right here. So in Studio, the pen tools are included right on the toolbar. You can see you've got selection of colors and different pen widths that you can use. For Primary, to get your pen width and color options, you need to click on the pen tool on the toolbar, and it then opens up your pen toolbar down at the bottom here. You can see you've got that same selection, so colors, highlighters, pen widths, and erasers down here. Okay, so just a slight difference, and as I say, that goes along with the age of learners, and in particular the height of learners that are working at the board. We want the tools to be easily accessible for our youngest learners. You can see that all the other tools look similar. They're just slightly different icons, a little bit more visual and chunky for, again, our primary users. Now, when you first open your software, you may also notice that the browser window is on the left side of the page. This might open pinned, as I think it does in primary, or it might be unpinned and just docked off to the side. I can do that myself at any time. Just clicking the little pin, it turns orange, so it stays in place. And if I deselect it, it then docks off to the side there, and I can call it back at any time just by hovering over top of it. When you are just starting out with the software, you probably won't make much use of your browser windows, but as your skills develop, you will find that the browser is a very valuable time-saving feature of the software. If you want to know more about the browsers, then just make sure that you listen carefully at the end of the session, where Sam will take you through some possible next steps for your learning. Now, frequently, I find that people close the browser's windows when they first open it. So they see that there, it keeps coming in and out, and what happens is we click the X, we close it to get rid of it. And then they might forget that it actually exists, or not sure how to reopen it and get it back. So if you do happen to close it, you can always open your browser windows again by going up to View in the main menu, and then down here to select Browsers. And this will put that onto the side of your screen again. Now, I always like to think of my left-handed colleagues out there. The software defaults to settings for right-handed users. Now, I, being left-handed, always change the side of my toolbar and browser window to better reflect how I like to work at my board. So to move my toolbars or an item, all I do is click at the dark blue area at the top, or if you're in the primary skin, the yellow area at the top. Just hold my mouse down on that or my pen down and just drag it to the other side. Okay, so I can just pick them up and drag them where I want them to be, or I can drag them back again. So I like the versatility of the board, that I can really have it set up and looking the way I want it to look. Now, just so you know, any changes that you make to your interface will automatically be saved. So therefore, if I do move my toolbars, close my software down, the next time I open it, my toolbars will remain moved, meaning that I don't have to do these steps every single time I open it. Okay, now just quickly, I know that most of you are going to know this, but it is worth mentioning anyway. A flip chart, and that's what we're working in our ActivInspire, flip chart, is a series of pages. So think of it like a Word document that has a series of pages, or a PowerPoint that has a series of slides that you're putting information on. So it's a series of pages, and to get to the next one, we just use the arrow keys on the toolbar here to turn the page. We can use the backwards arrow to go back a page again if we want as well. Okay? So I'm now going to take a few minutes to highlight specific parts of the software interface. Some of the things I'm going to talk about you might already know. Other ones might be a bit new to you, or maybe you've had a look at them before but never really understood what they do. So I've mentioned the main ActivInspire menu several times so far. When I'm saying that, I'm talking about these 6 headings at the top here. If I click on them, you'll see that my options change depending which menu I choose. So we've got lots of options available to us of things that we can do within the software. Just think of this like you do with any of the Microsoft Office documents. And it's the same sort of logical format that it follows. So think about what you want to do with your software, what you're trying to do with it, and then where that would fit under these particular headings. But it always is good when you're just starting out to have a little look at this and explore the potential of what's available to you. This main menu can also be accessed straight from your toolbar. So if I click on the little one at the top here, you'll see I have those same 6 options. I can scroll down them, and again, all of those options are available to me. Okay, so 2 locations, just working with whatever one makes sense to you, with whichever one you find easiest to use. Now I can tell the number of flip charts that I have open and the names by looking at the document tabs up here at the top. So right now you can see I have 2 flip charts open, and the one I'm working on is the Back to Basics flip chart. If I click on Untitled, I can flip to my Untitled flip chart, and I can click Back to Basics here. So when I go up to File and open a new flip chart, so I'm just going to open to Recent, so it always saves my last 8 flip charts that I've had open, and open it up, you'll now see that that flip chart appears as a document tab at the top, and again, I can flip through them. Now, I find this particularly useful for plenary sessions where we're looking at moving progression in learning and moving the learning forward. So we can have a look at, this is what we looked at yesterday, this is what we looked at the last lesson, and now we're going to move on to this in this lesson. But I could go back at any point to review a concept that my class haven't quite picked up or don't understand. So I love the flexibility of being able to have all of these tabs open at the top. Now, for those of you who are using the primary interface, it is exactly the same. All of these tabs will appear at the top, and you can interact with them in the same way. Now, over at the top right over here, you can also see that I can tell how many pages are in a particular flip chart, and it also tells me what page I'm on. So that is useful information as well. Now, I personally like to use my software in the Windows view. This means that my Windows toolbar always remains visible at the bottom of my page, but I do have the option, so you can see my Windows toolbar down here, but I do have the option of viewing the software in full screen by clicking on this button. Now, just want to say very quickly, for those of you who are using Mac or Linux, it will be the same options that you have available to yours, obviously just looking slightly with the different operating systems. So up here in the top right, when I hover over this icon, you'll see it says full screen. So clicking this will then put my software into full screen. This means that my Windows toolbar is no longer visible. This sometimes can be a better option for using with some students by taking away the unnecessary distractions and focusing on just one piece of software, so taking away any other distractions from there. So all we have is our flip chart environment. Now, once I've done that, you'll notice that I have a new icon up here. Oh, that's not the icon I wanted. A new icon up here in my full screen. If I click on that, that will take me to my desktop, okay, and I happen to have a web page open that's on my desktop. If I flip back to my flip chart here, I just want to show you, if I go back to the full screen, I can also get right back to my flip chart just by clicking on this one here, and that takes me back to the flip chart. Okay, so just however you best think you'd like to use it. Also at the top right, there is an icon that I think looks like a little snowflake. So I always call it my snowflake. When I hover over it, you'll see I get a little tooltip that tells me it says design mode. The default setting is for the flip chart to be in presentation mode. So when the snowflake is blue, you're in presentation mode. And when the snowflake is orange, you're in design mode. Design mode is handy if you want to stop actions on objects so that you can move them somewhere else on the page without them playing or without them mucking up your flip chart. So you can see here when I've gone into design mode that I actually have more objects on my page than I have made immediately visible to you when I'm in presentation mode. So I have information that I want to talk about and reveal to you at another point in the lesson. I don't want to have all of that on view at the time. Okay, so I can then click on here where I've put an action and reveal that. So these are some of the things that we've covered already so far looking at the interface. Now, if you notice, on my actual software, I have one more icon on my page that doesn't appear in the little photograph that I took, and that's this one up here. When I hover over it, you'll see it says Page Notes. This one lets me know if a flip chart page has notes on it. Clicking on it will open up my notes browser, and you can see that open down here. It is really useful to get into the habit of noting down learning intentions and intended use of a page when creating flip charts. It means that you can use the pages year on year and quickly remember the idea behind them and how you intended your class to use them. It's also really important to use this feature with sharing colleagues so that they know how the pages work. There's nothing worse than downloading a great flip chart for Promethean Planet and then not understanding the intention of the individual pages. So really good to get into using that. Now just to show you, if I were to go to my untitled flip chart, you'll see that icon doesn't appear there because I'm on a page that doesn't have any page notes. Another button that you will find all over the software is the option button. So I've got a little image of it there. So you can look for these small icons at the top of browsers. So if we go here, we've got them in our browsers, we've got them at the top of the browser, the top of the toolbar, it's on our menu bar up here. What they do is they allow you to quickly customize an item's behavior. For example, if I click the one on my toolbar, it gives me options for how the toolbar looks or where it can be located. If I go to my page browser and click on one of my pages, I get options on what I can do with individual pages, or I could select multiple pages and be able to change the options of multiple pages. As you get to know your software, look out for this button and use it to explore the ways that you can customize various parts to best suit your needs. So these are all interface features that we're going to look at today. Oh, and I've changed my page, so we'll go back to the other one that we're going to look at today. Apart from one more, and that's the profile button up here. So I'm going to take a minute to speak further about it on the next couple of pages. ActivInspire comes with 5 preset profiles. These are defined preferences for specific types of interaction related to how the page is intended to be used. Here you can see what each of the 5 different preset profiles look like. Okay, so we've got 5 different ones here, and I've got them all in the studio look. The profile includes all of the tools deemed relevant for that type of interaction. For example, the mathematics toolbar has all the tools readily available for use in a mathematics lesson. So we can see all the math tools down here. Now I haven't forgotten the primary users. Yours looks slightly different. So I've taken screenshots here. So as you can see, the toolbars look similar. They have the similar tools available to you, but the actual look of it is just slightly different. Now, if I go back to the studio one, you may notice that my toolbar looks slightly different to the toolbar that I have in the image here. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my profile so that I have the authoring toolbar to show you that a little bit better. So I'm now in the authoring toolbar, which is this one here. But as you can see, my toolbar looks slightly different. And that's because in the image, I had my 3rd column open. But in the software as it's set right now, I have the 3rd column closed. The toolbar is what we call an intelligent toolbar. So what it does is it remembers the your most frequently used tools, and those are what appear in this 3rd column down here. Now you can choose to have that 3rd column open for any of your profiles. To do that, all you need to do is go up to that little menu button on your toolbar, and then I want to deselect Roll In, and you'll now see that that 3rd column is available. So as I said, this is showing me the items that I most frequently use, and it's giving me a little shortcut there so I can really quickly access them without having to go back through menus to find them. Now, just want to bring up the primary one again, and I'm just going to pull that to a side. So all of the toolbars the toolbar profiles are the same in the 2 different interfaces, apart from the authoring toolbar, and that one is slightly different. So just to point out again that the colors and the pen widths don't appear on the primary toolbar, and that's because I access them through the pen tool. And the other one that is missing from the studio is the resource browser and the page browser. So these shortcuts don't appear on the authoring toolbar in Studio, But once again, I can easily get to them just by opening up my browser, and then I have my page browser and my resource browser here. Okay. The profile you choose is up to you. You can keep the default tool set as it is. You can remove tools, or you can replace some or all of them with other tools. You can define your preferences in a profile, just as these preset ones have been defined, and you can save them when you're satisfied on how they look. So you can create as many profiles as you need and quickly switch between them. But I'm not going to talk about that tonight because that's really more an advanced skill, so for another webinar. But what I do recommend is that you always switch your default profile by going here to authoring. The reason why I say that is this tends to be the one that is used in many training videos and support documentation. Okay. Now in our description, we said that we were going to show some simple yet effective and engaging examples of flip chart pages which have been created using the basic tools presented to me on my toolbar and also just the basic features of the ActivInspire software. So I'm going to do that for the next couple of pages. These examples will also help to explain other basic features of the software that I've not yet touched on. This page has been set up for a lesson looking at a local area. The teacher used a local website that happened to have photos of their area over time. So we're looking at the green in Derbyshire here. So on top is a color photograph, a current photograph in color, and underneath it is an old photograph going back in time to what the green looked like years ago. The pen tool is great for annotating objects, so I can choose my pen tool, and I'm just going to select a color up here, so we'll go for yellow, and then what I can do is I could actually annotate on my picture. So I could trace around, here we have some buildings on our picture, okay, trace around a few of those buildings so we know what it looks like. Another building here, another one over here, okay. We could say we've got a bench in the photo here, so great for taking your kids to have a play in the park. We could also trace around, we've got a little fence here. I'm actually going to use a different color for that. Trace around my fenced-in area, and we could have a discussion about why would it be a good idea to have a fenced-in area around a park. So lots of discussion that we could be having going on. If I make a mistake, I can use my eraser tool here, and I can change the size of my eraser tool, and I could rub out. As you see, the eraser tool will only rub out the marks that I made with my pen. And that is because the eraser tool only works on annotations, so things made with the pen or with the highlighter. So once I've done that, I can fix it, bring it back again, and draw that in. Okay. Using another basic feature of the software, I can select the image on my page. So you can see I've just selected that topped color picture. And when I do that, I get my Object Edit menu up. So everything I put on my page is an object that has editable properties. I get the handles up around the side, and you can see I have my Object Edit options up here. If I hover over top of any of them, it gives me that little tooltip to tell me exactly what it is. So if you're not sure, just hover over top of that to remind you what it does. Now I can give this page even more of a wow factor by just selecting this one here, the transparency tool. And all I'm going to do is very slowly slide that along, and what I'm doing is I'm changing the translucency of the top image to reveal the older black and white images behind it. And as you can see, my annotations still remain, and we could have a great discussion about changes over time. So what changes have happened in this area over time? Well, we can see that there's a building missing here. And in this picture, there was one here where there wasn't in our newer picture. And in fact, it looks like the grass extends out further because there's no fence blocking off a road here. So we can have a great discussion around these things. So the pen tools for annotation are fantastic on top of images, but especially when we can do this little translucency slider to show differences over time or changes in landscape, lots of different ways. One of the reasons that I suggest you switch your profile to authoring is so that the text tool becomes available. Text is really easy to put on the page. All you do is select the text tool from your toolbar and then click your flip chart page. Now, as you can see, as soon as I select that text, my text edit menu opens up at the top. And you'll see that this is a simplified version of, it gives you the same options, although simplified, that you would get in a Word document. I'm just going to change that font because I think that's quite small. I want it a little bit bigger for my title there. Now, once I've got that open, to get the text in there, all I do is just type in, using my keyboard, the title that I want or the text that I want. So very simple. And to come out of my text box, I just go back to my cursor, my select, and now I can pick that up and move it around and treat it as I do any other object on my page. Now, so that you don't have to sit and watch me type, I'm just going to drag in some text that I have pre-prepared off the side of my page or from the world around my page. Now, the world is the blue area that you can see to either side of the page here. Now, what's really great about this is that I can have information that I want to present to my learners for a lesson out of view until I want them to see it. So I can just have that sitting off the page and drag on any images, text, information that I want for my class as and when I want them to see it and put that on the page. So now we have a very simple page introducing the Age of Exploration. Once text is on my page, I can very simply edit it by double-clicking to go into it, and you can see I'm now opened a text box, have a cursor in there so I could add some more text in if I want, or I could alter the text that is already in here. I know that I'm in a text box because my text edit menu opens at the top. Again, if I click my select key, I come out of that. Learners can interact with the text in various ways. So one of the ways is to pick up the highlighter. Again, I can change the color here, and I could change the width of the highlighter if I want as well. And we could highlight over top of key pieces of information or key words within the paragraph that we want to talk about. Another tool that does something similar is the fill tool, which is the little bucket here on your toolbar. And again, I can just choose another color to make that difference. And what this does is I can click on individual words and I can change the color of them. So again, we can highlight individual words or key phrases or key pieces of information. Now, the reason why I like the fill tool better than the highlighter tool is that if I then want to move that text, you'll notice that my highlighted words go, my colored words go with it, but my highlights don't. And the reason that is that the highlighter puts a layer on the top of puts an object on the top layer of my software, so it treats it as a separate object, whereas changing the color of the actual text means that it is still the same object. So what I can do, I'm just going to take those and put them off to the side for now. Okay. I can also have my learners come up and get them to right-click on a word, which opens the object edit menu, and I have something called extract text. And what that does is that then makes an exact copy of that particular word that I can drag out to isolate to speak about. So we could take out key pieces of information, keywords, and drag them out to be able to talk about without the distractions of the rest of the text in there. What we can also do is double click on the page, and this time I can select a phrase or a number of words from my paragraph, and this time I can pull out that whole sentence or that whole phrase. So again, isolating those key pieces of information. So a great example I've seen of this being used was on a lesson on paragraph writing, where the class were looking at key ideas and supporting ideas within a paragraph. So the teacher had the paragraph up there, a learner would come up, highlight the key piece of information in that paragraph and drag it out so they could talk about it, and then they did with the same with the supporting ideas. So very simple yet effective lessons that really meet the learning intentions that we're doing in our lessons with our children. Okay, but I think that you'll probably agree that this page isn't very engaging. We've got lots of text on a white background, and it doesn't really get our learners' attention. With just a quick few steps, I can make this look much better. So what I'm going to do is go into my resource library. Now I've got my shared resources and my personal resources. So I put an image that I want just there in my personal resources. I know where it is, so I can really quickly get it. What I can do is pick this up and drag that on to my page. So now I've got a lovely background on there. So right away, much more visual and interesting page. The only problem is now my text isn't very easy to read. So I can fix that as well by using another tool on my toolbar, and that's my shape tool. Now your shapes, in the studio I have the option here of my fill color, and I have the option here of my line color, and then I've got all different shapes that I can choose from. Clicking the double arrow on the bottom gives me more shapes and lines as well. In primary, your shape edit toolbar will open up down at the bottom, and again, all of these options are available to you there as well. So I'm just going to choose a rectangle. I want to have a white fill and a black outline, and I'm just going to draw that shape on my page. Now obviously, I don't want that in front of the text, so I'm going to select the object, go into my options menu, and I'm going to reorder it to send it back, and that puts it nicely behind it. Now, that's much better. I can read the text, but again, now I've made the background sort of disappear. So what I can do is, using that translucency slider again, I can just change the translucency ever so slightly so that my background starts to come through a bit. And I hope you agree that that is a much more visual page than just having that black text on a white background. This is a page that always seems to get a really good reception when I'm out and about. It looks very magical, but it's actually very simple to create. The idea is that the pupils can drag numbers from the black side of the page onto the white side, and they change. Okay, so they just magically change into a new number. So the learning intention in here is we want our learners to think about the rule. What's happening to the number? How does it change? So what's the rule? As I said, this is quite a simple idea, although it looks a little bit more complicated than it actually is. So let's deconstruct the page to have a look at how it's made. First of all, I've not made my background two colors. My background is actually black. If I enter design mode, you can see that on this side, what I have is a white rectangle, and I've just locked that onto the background there by going into my object edit and selecting locked. Okay, so that's one part of the magic revealed. Now the numbers are really simple as well. I'm just going to use my fill tool here, and I'm going to change the background, the black background, to another color. And when I do this, you'll notice that for each of my numbers, I actually have both of the numbers already there. You couldn't see the black one because it was on a black background. But when I move it over to the white, to a new background, that number is magically revealed. This example went one step further on the magic scale by making the first number the same color as the new background. So again, it looked like we were replacing one number for the other. So the 2 became a 4. When in actual fact, the 2 hasn't gone anywhere. It's just, you just can't see it because it's the same color as the background. A really simple idea with lots of different applications for use. I've seen this done really well with text, with words also. Also on the toolbar, you'll find the connector tool. That's this one here. This tool allows me to connect one object to another. So I'm just going to connect some pictures. I'm not going to really worry if the text matches the pictures just for now, because this is more just to give you an example of what the connector tool does. Once I have them connected, I can then pick them up and move them around, and you'll see that the two objects that I've now connected stick together, and I can move them together. Really nice if you just want to do very simple, quick mind mapping or brainstorming activity. Now, there are two tools that enable you to use the features of ActivInspire on documents and applications out with the flipchart environment. And these are the Desktop Annotate and Desktop Tool. You can see them up here on the top of your toolbar. You can use the Desktop Annotate button when you want to use the ActivInspire tools, such as the pen, highlighter, and eraser, or in fact any other tool available to you within the software, on your desktop or on any application that you have open on your desktop. So you can see here, I'm going to use it on top of a web page. Well, in Desktop Flipchart, using the cursor, so when I'm in Select, it will allow me to interact with my desktop as normal. But when I select a tool from within ActivInspire, it then behaves just like in the ActivInspire environment. So here I can just trace around, annotate over top of this image. So I'm annotating on top of a web page. Now, when you save a desktop flipchart, the objects are saved onto an invisible background. I liken them to putting an acetate over a piece of paper, annotating on the acetate, and then when I move the acetate, the annotation stays, but not the background. That's the same. As default, the background does not form part of the flipchart that's saved. So to show you that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up another page here, and I'm dragging my pages all over the place for a second. There we go. And you'll see that in this desktop flipchart, I still have my annotation there, even though I'm on a different web page. So all that saves in the desktop flipchart is the annotations we make on top of it. Now, there are ways that I can save the desktop image as well. But again, we're not going to talk about that today, but we will direct you to a document called, in fact, I've got it, let me go back into here. I've got it right here, a document called the ActivInspire User Guide. And if you look at page 79, you can find out how to make sure you get that background. Incidentally, this is an absolutely brilliant guide and covers most of what I'm talking about today and more, just about basic use. So you can see the link to where you can find it on Promethean Planet just down there. We'll provide this link again at the end. Desktop Tools is the other one I was going to talk about. And these are a collection of commonly used ActivInspire tools which you may find useful when working in other applications on occasions when you might not necessarily require the full facilities offered by Desktop Annotate. So you can see when I go into Desktop Tools, it puts this little tool onto my desktop. I can then pick that up and move that around to where I want it to be. Hovering over the center also opens up to show me the different tools that become available to me. So what I can do, for example, is I could take an image. I like to take an image right off a web page and put it in my flipchart for discussion, as opposed to having it on a web page with all the distractions around it. So to do that, I can just select my camera tool, select the type of camera image I want. I'm just going to choose area, specify the area that I want, and I'm just going to put that back to my current page. Now when I go back to my desktop tools, and I can go return to flipcharts, and you can see that object is now on here. That now becomes a normal tool on my page. I can interact with it as any other objects that I put on my page. I could pick up my annotation tool and I could annotate on top of it as well. Well, as usual, I've covered a lot of information so far, but don't worry, you will be able to watch this video again and again as many times as you want to keep reviewing the concepts to help you build up your experience with using them. Just before I finish, there's two last items on the toolbar that I want to talk about, and that has to do with the buttons down at the bottom here. So the first one is the Clear tool. Now the Clear tool is a really great way of demonstrating the different layers that you find on your flipchart page. And once you understand layers, it just opens up the potential of so much more that you can do with your software. So when I click this Clear button, it will clear layers of objects on my page one at a time, or I could clear the whole page at once if I wanted to. So if I do clear annotations, it will only take away objects that are on the top layer of my software. So the only tools that create objects that default to the top layer are my pen and my highlighter, although I do have the option of moving objects between layers if I want to. Clear objects takes away any objects that are on the middle layer of my software. So these are generally text, images, shapes, clip art, those kind of things, and I can clear them away. Grids are a layer of their own. To put a grid on my page, the simplest thing to do is right-click on the flip chart page and then go into Grid Designer. And here you can see I can create my own custom grids to put on a flip chart page. Again, I can just use that to clear the grid. I can also use it to clear my background image, and then we've got a blank page. Another very useful button to know is my reset. So when I click this, it resets that page to the last time that I've saved it. Now finally, the last two buttons I want to talk about are the undo and the redo buttons. These two buttons allow you to undo and redo single steps that you have made with your software. But remember, they will only work until the flip chart is saved or closed. So I'm just going to show you by demonstrating with my little fish here, moving him across the page. This brought a real smile onto my 2-year-old's face the other day when I showed him how it worked. And then what I can do is just use my undo to move the little fish back, and my redo to make the fish swim back across the page. Okay, if I keep going, you can see it'll take me back to previous changes I made on other pages as well. So it just keeps going one step at a time, back and forth on the interaction that I've had on that flip chart so far. Well, thank you very much for listening. I hope that I've given you lots of information and some things that you can take away to use. I'm just going to pass you back over to Sam right now, who is just going to take you through some possible next steps.
Thanks very much, Janice. Once again, loads of information there for everyone to take on board. So we tried to make the content relevant to everybody, so hopefully the most basic users have been provided with some really good tips there. And for those of you that have used our software for a long time, hopefully we've managed to refresh your memory. So as already mentioned, there will be a recording to this webinar so that everyone can view it at their own leisure. In addition to that, we would like to point out a couple of other areas for support. So firstly, Promethean Planet. As you know, there's thousands of teacher-created resources that are free to download and use. They offer really good support and sharing opportunities. We've put a link at the bottom of this page, and there's also one in the ActivInspire user guide mentioned by Janice. You can find newly designed professional development pages where there's lots of support and advice for teachers, including video tutorials, a listing of the Promethean academies where you can get quality assured face-to-face training. In addition to this, don't forget the ActivInspire help files. They come with the software and are also always a great resource when you go looking for specifics on how to do something. Now, we do hope that you've all enjoyed the session today and that you'll want to join us in a fortnight for our next webinar, Share and Share Alike. This webinar is looking at using flipcharts from Promethean Planet, and we'll be demonstrating how easy it is to download, open, use or adapt content shared by others on the website. If you do have any questions about tonight's session, then please do get in touch with Janice or myself using the emails provided on screen. We've also provided our Twitter handles, and we're always looking for more followers or people to follow so we can see what's happening in education in the classroom. Finally, all these titles were written in collaboration with Babcock Education and cover topics requested by their teachers. If you do have any titles that you would like us to look at, then please do get in contact with Janice or myself. And finally, I'd just like to say thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on future titles.